So in general, one of the questions I get a lot is how are you going to be able to rotate successfully without movement? People need to kind of understand the impact of how movement affects your rotations throughout the end in the early game. In my opinion, the best way to actually rotate without movement is simply to use all of the different abilities that you have throughout the game. Now in today's video, I just want to go over generally what this means and overall how you guys can rotate without movement throughout the end game and even the mid game as well in certain smaller zones. So to start off, I just want to go over the idea of how everybody can understand the impact of new movement. This consists of sprinting and mantling, and I think it's very valuable that everybody learns that. So what the first thing you need to understand really is that everybody who is going to be rotating like this, they're faster. Everybody can get places quicker. They can mantle onto builds and they can enter fights easier. They can disengage from fights easier. Rotations tend to be happening quicker and quicker throughout these zones. The general way that I'd recommend you guys understand this impact of new movement, make sure that as you guys rotate, as you guys are moving throughout these zones, understand where am I going, who can meet me here, and how exactly am I able to get a place faster or slower than them based upon the situation. Now this might seem a little bit complicated, but let's say that you're playing on the far side of zone pulls really far from you, it pulls max distance, and you really need to rotate out throughout the map and get there as quick as possible. What I'd recommend you guys do is, obviously if you don't have mobility, store up your stamina, maybe use slap barrels if you have them nearby, and then just try to rotate all the way through by sprinting, sliding, mantling, using any variety of movement that you possibly can is going to be extremely powerful within these games. Now, a really good thing to supplement this is the idea of using the longest distance while rotating. What I mean by this is that let's say you guys are rotating, you want to try to use the longest distance, so let's say you're on the dead side of zone, you're on a part of zone where not too many people are, but in between you and the next zone is a congested side of zone, really long place for you guys to go. What I'd recommend you guys do is find the literal longest route for rotation, because that not only will help you avoid the congested side, it will once again help you avoid everybody who is trying to take the shortest route and everybody who can potentially eliminate you. So guys, as an example of what I mean by this in situations where you are on the dead side of zone and the congested side is sort of in between you in the next zone, in this situation, I just generally want to explain this whole idea of where you guys are going to be located. Once again, I have another zone set up right here, and I'm just going to draw to you guys where exactly the congested side of zone is in this situation. In this situation, the congested side of zone is going to be this center area, and pretty much everything in between you in this little marker, if you guys don't know, that's going to be you. It's everything between you and the next zone. So in this circumstance, it is very tough to actually understand sometimes what am I going to do to rotate, but this is where the sort of longest distance rotate kind of applies. So let's say that you're right here. Everybody's in the center of zone. All the people in the center of zone, like they're right here, they're going to be like, hey, I can just walk right into zone since I'm so close to it and I'm not that far away. So that's what people are going to do. Even if people are located on the edges of zone, they're going to be like, okay, I'm just going to white line. This person's like, hey, I'm just going to white line a zone. This person says, hey, I'm just going to white line a zone as well. After all of that, what you guys can easily do is you can go from your dead side area and you can wrap around the longest side of zone. Go to a place where you can use old builds. All these players that rotated, if they rotate early, they have old builds. That's why you should rotate late and also with the longest route on dead side. Yeah, it may be tough because you're going to be right up next to zone, and if you get held, it is tough to actually get out of it. But if you use old builds, if you stay hidden, if you rotate it correctly, you guys can hop off to different checkpoints like I said. If you are able to do that, that's how you're going to be able to rotate with the longest distance in the best way possible in this situation where you're on dead side and you're in between, you know, a sort of next zone, and then the congested side is in between the two of you. So that's a problem right there. This is how to solve it. And yeah, that's pretty much the general way you guys are going to rotate in this situation. However, I will generally just say that there are circumstances in which you will not necessarily just be in the whole situation of, hey, I'm on one side of the zone, that's the dead side, in between me is the congested side of zone, and then is the other zone that's going to be in the future. That's the next zone. That's not going to really be happening every single time. What sometimes may happen is that you may be on the dead side originally, and when you're on the dead side originally, zone may pull somewhat close to you, and then you guys can rotate over to that easily. And then there's another situation in which you guys are on the congested side of zone. Let's say you're based up there with you, yourself, or your teammate, and then you guys are going to be having the next zone, and it's going to be pulling quite far from you. Those are two other situations in which your rotation truthfully matters in the way you guys are actually going to be playing, moving, the way you guys are going to rotate, how you're going to rotate using the longest distance method that I came over before in this video. That's really important. So I generally recommend you guys pay attention to this next part. It's me going over the general idea of longest distance method in those two situations that I just went over. Remember, the first situation was when you guys are on the dead side of zone and the next zone pulls close to you. In the section after that, that's going to be where you are on the congested side of zone, and then the zone pulls far away from you as well there. So guys, we're back in Fortnite.gg. I just want to kind of explain the different ways for you guys to understand how long distance rotates are actually better than short distance rotates. And I have some demographics here for you guys to actually understand exactly how that's going to be working. So in this first example, we have a little marker that says you. So let's say that you and your duo, or you as a solo, you guys are positioned on this side of zone, which is going to be the dead side in this situation. Then the first half and half zone, it's going to pull over here into the right side of the map, and you're going to have to rotate from here over to the zone. So a lot of people on the congested side, which if you guys don't know is going to be right here, they're going to have to rotate from this congested side. They're going to have to come all the way from over here and then rotate into this part of the zone. So that means a part of this rotate that's going to be very, very congested, it's going to be places that are like all the way on this side of the map. All of this area is going to be very, very congested if you guys are trying to rotate through it. So in this circumstance, the longest rotate actually isn't the best. What I'd recommend is you just stay on the dead side, try to rotate quickly, and wrap around the zone until you get to the zone. You can white line if you want to, which means just following the white line from your marker to the zone. However, I would still recommend that this is probably the best thing to do, is you guys rotate just like this. Now I want to go over to a different option. This is going to be if you guys are not on the dead side, if you're on the congested side of zone. In this circumstance, it is a little bit different how you would handle it. So what I would recommend you guys do here, simply put, is what you guys would want to ideally do. This is the dead side, this is the zone. What you want to try to do is find the longest rotation. So what this means is that find the longest distance rotate, because this is how you're going to avoid the congested side of zone. Everybody on this congested side of zone is going to be like, hey, I can just rotate this way into zone. Everybody even over here and over here, they're all going to be like, hey, let's go forward, let's go forward. Everybody here as well, like, so let's go forward, let's go forward. So what I'd recommend you guys do is maybe wait a little bit later, wait for these people in the back to rotate, and then once again, wrap around the side of the zone, rotate through the dead side, and then use the longest distance in order to get to the zone as quick as possible. That method is the best way to make sure that you're not going to get eliminated, and it's to avoid everybody that's trying to take the shortest route, so you have the least likely chance of actually being eliminated in the situation. To supplement this, I would once again recommend using old builds in natural cover. This means you can get a free rotate where less people are. Let's say you do use the longest distance, or you have a place where there's a bunch of going to be old builds that are unpopulated, abandoned. You guys can use those to shield yourself without wasting any mats, without wasting too many resources and stuff that you can save for the later end game. Once again, if you guys see mountains, if you guys see buildings, natural cover, use that as well. Natural cover is one of the most important aspects for rotating throughout the end game in general. Keep moving, that's the most important part. As long as you keep moving, even if you rotate late, if you rotate early, as long as you keep moving, it's really possible you guys will stay alive throughout the whole game. However, what I mean by keep moving is that yes, keep rotating, keep going. However, you can stop, regroup, base up, and then continue going. You can kind of hop off to different checkpoints if you need to, if you're getting shot at, if a team pushes you. That doesn't mean you literally keep sprinting and moving the whole exact time. This means that keep thinking about where your rotation is going to be. Keep scouting, make sure you're consistently understanding where the next rotation is going to be as an IGL or as somebody who's just rotating in general. Now that's about it for this video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed. Be sure to let me know if you like this new style of video in the comments down below. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.